So back to the original question, how do we do this ethically, right? So there is a potential thing for an ethical NFT that might be like a cosmetic something or other, right? So I don't know, fairy wings or something. I used to play Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2, and I had a really cool. I was all into the aesthetics of that one. But anyway, um, so what you need to do if you want to make this ethical is, well, firstly, you need to pick a blockchain that isn't reliant on a proof of work blockchain that causes horrible environmental damage. So that's step one, or one that, is a side chain to Ethereum or something like that. So that's step one. The second thing is you need to essentially remove the speculative aspect, right? Because the whole point about NFTs and cryptocurrencies and that is that people want to see their investments go up, right? And they buy into it. They may not give a crap about the game. So there's a lot of people who play Axie Infinity who don't give a crap about Axie Infinity and actually playing the game Axie Infinity, or they get to a certain point and then, it gets to the point where they might play through a bit of the game and they're like, yeah, whatever. Okay, now I just want to make money, right? And so there's that kind of speculative aspect, right, where people are just putting money in for the sake of making more money, right? So if you want to build ethical NFTs, you have to strip out this, because you're going to get people at all levels doing that. So at the cryptocurrency level, you're going to get people who are just essentially using the cryptocurrency, like hedging on that, right? So classic kind of hedging and speculation just on the cryptocurrency level in order to make a lot of money for themselves. So that, promotes hype cycles and all that with the actual tokens. Then you also have the level of the game itself. So things like the NFTs within those games, you might buy and sell Axies, and some of them are rare and whatever, whatever, right? But there's that collectible side that has the monetary value ascribed to it is also becomes a speculative asset. I mean, a lot of those people who bought Bored Apes are not doing it for bragging rights. They're doing it because they think it will make them more money in the future, right? So that's a speculative aspect. So you have to strip all that out somehow, because that's not that's where you get these kind of different tiers of people. It's where you get the kind of that hyper capitalization of things, and it's that's the source of the problem, right? It really is the source of the problems within this sphere. The problem is that because the underlying blockchain relies on there being rewards given for verification of ledger transactions, of writing to that ledger, you need to find some other reward to give. And there's just no real way to do that. And that's the problem, because whatever reward it's going to be, it'll be something that someone can either speculate with or make money from in some way by trading or selling or whatever. And that's the underlying problem. So I think the only real way you can do this is kind of really behind the scenes with, say, a bunch of companies kind of collaborating together or cooperating in some way. And then that's a slightly different type of blockchain, where, and it doesn't rely, like, the incentive there is not to make money, but it's to keep the blockchain active. And that would be something that would be internally essentially managed by those companies. But that's the only way I could really, that would be so divorced from the player themselves, right? Like it wouldn't be about me going and taking my sword. It would be me saying, hey, I don't know, Ubisoft, send my sword over to Microsoft or something, right? Like, and that, working within company kind of like spaces rather than as a collaborative effort, right, between those companies versus like an antagonistic trustless system like you have with the current ones. But we don't really see that, and would require essentially a load of companies working together that are in competition with each other. So who knows, right? But I think that's the only real way you could possibly see that happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation going on in the chat about, like, we talk about what players add to the value of play and wondering what if we change the idea of value from communal to individual survival and sustainability needs over individual luxury. It's like, how do we get the crypto and NFT into a we versus a me mindset? And I don't think we're going to find any solid answers on this stream today, per
No,
se.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a really interesting question, right? Because it's a little bit like what I was just talking about, but I don't think that's not what you'd use crypto for. That like that's I mean, so the thing with tech, right? I mean, there's a classic thing from like ethics of technology ethics where technology itself is not neutral. It's always developed with societal, like, with expectations, with background, with assumptions, with prejudices, with bias, of the people who are developing it, right? And this is why you see so many problems with things like artificial intelligence and facial recognition, and even things like all the PPE that was built mostly for men, stuff like that, right? So
Yeah.
any technology has this built in, and it may not be as obvious as those, but there is something there that's built in. And crypto stuff was very much built with this kind of like libertarian ethos behind it, right? So it's not neutral in itself. It's trying to promote a certain way of life, essentially, right? And the other thing about technology ethics is that oh gosh, I've just lost my thought. Hang on, what was the question again? Because it was about moving away from the me to the we, right?
Yes.
I had a really good train of thought, and now it's almost 10 o'clock on a Friday night here, and I've had a full day of writing, so my brain has gone a little jelly. But
You're doing great.
Oh, thanks. um, but yeah, okay. So we've got the Chang's not neutral side of things, and we've also got kind of like oh yeah, this is I've got it back. Hooray! What you see a lot is when people develop technology, they think of a really cool puzzle to solve a well-known computer science problem or something like that, right? Or some sort of like I call it puzzle solving, right? And Bitcoin originally was essentially a really good solution to this. How do we exchange money between people that don't trust each other, like via technology, right? Because if I pay you, I probably have to go through my bank or Visa or PayPal or Venmo or whatever it is, and I have to trust that they're going to send that on, right? So that this is the puzzle they were solving, was how do we take that middle person out, right? And so really the way it's now being worked is essentially there's a lot of shoehorning of this technology into whatever might work possibly, and it's a classic what we call a solution looking for a problem. And so that's why you're saying, oh, we could put medical data on the blockchain, we could put house deeds on the blockchain, without the thinking through what the implications of that is, which is like privacy problems, like the fact that I might want to update my medical records at some point, and that's probably not going to be possible with an immutable blockchain. Like, so you can always append to it, but you can't ever delete previous things. And also like the whole I mean, they're public for a reason. Like that's part of the whole thing, is that it's open transparent. So would you really want to have your title deeds with your name, address, etc., available on a easily searchable index? Probably not, right? And so there's a whole bunch of stuff like that, right? And this is the issue, is that it's just not set up. And there's a lot of discussion amongst kind of critics of crypto that talk about the fact that it's been around for over a decade now, and people still haven't found, actually, apart from cryptocurrency, they haven't found a good use case for it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, NFTs, you can do that already. Like, I mean, there are peer-to-peer sharing things that you can do already, right? I mean, there are other ways of dealing with things like digital ownership that already exist, and this is really just kind of like this. The key thing with the crypto side is that it's not about that. Like, it's actually about hyping up the currency that's underlying it in order for the people who bought in early to make lots of money. And this is the big issue that I have with it, I think, really. The hype cycle that really only benefits these like VCs and early adopters and people that already have a lot of money so they can buy in at some point. And I mean, if you're reliant on Elon Musk tweeting, for your investment to go up, then like, oh man, that's so problematic just to start with, right? Like,
I
so yeah, I
don't know
don't
what you're
think
talking about.
so. I mean, oh, by the way, not giving any investment advice here, by the way. I'm just an ethicist, not a financial expert. But I mean, I think, to come back to the question about like, this is not the way that you do that. You can't. This is an individualism thing because of the ethos that's been built into it, which is a libertarian ethos, which is very much about the individual and not about the communal at all, and not about like, it's very much can I swear on this podcast? Fuck you, got mine kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
exactly what it's about, right? So, like, yeah, this is not the way and this is what really bugs me about things like the eco washing or the ethics washing of a lot of these NFT things, where they're like, oh, but we're donating to the World Wildlife Fund, or we're donating to, plant a tree for every, I don't know, whatever. Like, it's oh, and the worst ones are the mental health ones, where they're like, oh, we're donating to mental health charities while causing stress and anxiety through people losing money. And it's just, it really, really grinds my gears. But yeah.
So if we bring this back, so if I'm listening to this or watching this later and I'm a game developer and I'm like, okay, I keep hearing NFT, NFT, NFT. I really want to make my game. I keep hearing these viewpoints of like, should I include NFTs? Should I not? Like, what would be a quick primer to them of like what they should be considering before they go down this path or think about incorporating something from this?
That's a good question, because I mean the easy answer is don't.
Yeah. Yes.
And but there's obviously, like, that's the kind of the flippant answer too, right? I mean, these are serious questions that all game companies are considering at the moment.
Right.
And and I think really the things to look at are, this is a kind of a classic ethical value weighing, right? What are the values that you want to have portrayed within your game? Like, what do you want to focus on within your game? And whether, if you want to do things, if you want to make a game that is, people have an intrinsic motivation to play, so it's fun, they can relax, they can, feel accomplished when they win something, or whatever, right? Then NFTs are probably not for you. Because those are extrinsic motivations, and those come with a whole load of social and ethical and environmental, as we've seen as well, problems, right? And this is also what bothers me about things like they call them learn to earn games as well. So it's like educational games, but you get cryptocurrency for playing them and learning. And I mean, it strips out the whole point of education, right? Which should be about an intrinsic desire to learn something. And this is the problem with these sorts of games, right? So play to earn type games, no, like, it's all extrinsic value. There's no real intrinsic value, and that's, you have to decide what sort of game developer you are, really. I think is what it comes down to.
Is it a game
In terms
anymore?
yeah, exactly. And do you want it to be a game, or do you want it just to make you a lot of money, right? I mean, and they can make a lot of money. I mean, that's the way the world is, unfortunately, at the moment. It comes with a whole load of social and ethical issues, and but if you're the sort of person who's questioning that, then you're probably the sort of person who cares about that sort of thing, right? So, but I think you've got to be very careful about the hype that you're seeing around as well, in terms of things like returns and things like that. Because really, as we've seen with Axie Infinity, it can all just disappear because of some shoddy code. Also, you just got to be really careful. Like, if you're developing an NFT, a game that involves NFTs in any way, whether it's through like movable assets or whatever, security is so important. And I mean, most game developers, like especially indie developers, are just not set up to deal with complex security infrastructure. And I mean, you're essentially holding people's money, right? Like, it's not like it's going into a bank account or whatever. You are holding that, right? So it's your responsibility. And despite the fact that there's no current recourse, I mean, there will be, and regulation is gonna catch up really quickly. So just in terms of like the actual, implementation difficulties, I would say really think several times. And I mean, one of the things I've also seen a lot of happening a lot is, there'll be a really nice little game or whatever, and then some like crypto bro will come in and say, oh, you should NFT this and NFT that and do this and do this, and here, we'll sort it all out for you, right? Like, this is the thing.
Yes.
Don't trust them. I basically, because one, they have an incentive to, like, they have a personal monetary incentive to get more people involved in whatever it is, blockchain that they're using, whatever it is cryptocurrency they're using, because the more people who get involved in that, the more it normalizes that, the more it actually boosts their initial kind of capital, like the capital they put in, the more it returns to them. And basically you're the several levels down in a multi-level marketing chain is what that comes to, right? And so that's, you've got to be really careful about who you're dealing with that in that regard. So I mean, you need to do a lot of homework, really understand the technology, because things like smart contracts are not easy to do, and it's very easy to very easy to mess them up and then get essentially be on the hook for a whole load of very unhappy people. And also, I mean, I've spoken to things like people like it's not quite video games, but like charities who were accepting donations, crypto donations.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they were saying was that actually it's a lot of work dealing with crypto people because they're so needy. Like they're the worst. Apparently, they're the worst kind of group of customers. Like, well, you know, because they expect you to be so grateful all the time, and like, you know, and they expect things from you, and they're apparently just are really not because they're not in it to actually donate,
Right.
they're in it to get the rewards, right, to increase, like they're in it to make money essentially, right?